he hears it first. A thin sound, trying to live. The widow stands a few steps back, hands bare, breath tight. The cowboy kneels in the snow where a bundle kicks weakly. He opens his coat, and the cry lifts, raw and thin. The widow feels it crawl inside her ribs and scratch. "You leave him out here?" he says. "I had no choice," she says. "Everybody's got a choice." The wind sneaks under her dress. She tells herself she already chose. The ground is hard. The sky a sheet that gives nothing. The boy's lashes are iced. She turns her face away because the world tilts when she meets his eyes. The cowboy tucks the coat around the child and checks fingers that curl like little fish. He's burning cold. He says, "I know." She says, "You know, and you still did it? You don't know me. I know a grave when I see one being dug." She wants to strike him or fall into the hole inside her chest. The fence lists like old teeth. From inside the cabin, a pot cools and the room smells like smoke. Snow keeps coming. The cowboy presses the bundle close and rises. "You go on," she says. "Leave him. Let it finish." "No." She laughs without sound. She sees a man's hands from a winter before, sees a well rope, sees night water swallow a small shape, and her mouth closes on a cry that never climbs out. She stares at the stranger's hat brim and thinks if she asks his name, it will make this worse. "You did not see," she says. "I can see enough." "What do you see?" "A woman who wants to be cruel." "I see a woman who got told what to do so long she thinks the voice is hers." She steps close until her breath clouds his face. A small hand fights for air and finds the cowboy's wrist. The widow shakes. "You think you can walk in and fix the math," she says. "You think you can outrun who owns this ground." Ground. Don't own a child. Tell that to a sheriff who carries a family name in his badge. "I will." She flinches. "Nobody here says will. They say keep your head down." The cowboy shifts, letting the boy's face up to light. The child drags a breath and wails. "Take him," she says. "If you want the trouble, take him." "I'm not taking," he says. "I'm keeping him alive." "You can't keep him from what waits. You tried to give him to it. He's already marked." "By who?" "By all of them. By the house with the big porch. By the road. Past the mill. By boots that don't knock. Then we'll stand when they come." "Who is we?" she asks. "Me. Him. You if you want." Her knees feel like wet rope. She glances at the door. The latch is split. The last time it split, the sheriff laughed. The boy heard the laugh in his sleep for months. She imagines boots printing the snow before daylight, the brand they keep in a sack, the story they tell until it is the only law left. "Why are you here?" she asks, riding through. "Men don't stop for cries unless they know the cost. It cost me once. What did it take? A son?" The yard goes quiet. She meets his face and sees no lie, only the same kind of hole she pushes down every morning. She wants to ask what happened, but the question would be a door she can't close. "You leave him out here," he says again, softer. "I had no choice," she says, and the words sound thin. "Everybody's got a choice," he says, steady. He bends, lifts the boy, draws him under his coat. The cry shrinks to a whimper and then to breath. The cowboy lowers his mouth to the child's ear. "Son," he whispers. The widow watches, hands shaking, as the stranger turns toward the cabin and walks. She stares, trembling, and follows them across the yard toward her door. The hinge ticks like a clock as the wind pushes it. Her boots leave shallow prints that fill as soon as they're made. She thinks of the letter hidden near the hearth and the badge that will come for it. She wants to run and cannot. She wants to speak and cannot. She only follows. Snow grips her hem. They step inside and the door clicks. The room is spare. A rough table waits under a crooked window. The cowboy sits near the stove with the boy under his coat. The widow stays standing because standing feels like armor. She sets a candle on the table. Why did you interfere? She says. You could have kept riding. He rubs the child's head through the coat. He cried, he says. I heard him. People hear and walk on. I didn't. She hates that answer. You don't belong in this kitchen, she says. Cold didn't belong in his lungs, he says. She hovers over the table, but does not sit. He needed sleep, she says. Sleep would have taken him, he says. I've seen it take. She looks at the knife cuts and the black ring where a pan once burned. You don't know us, she says. Not him, not me. I know enough, he says. He was alone. He isn't alone, she says, and her voice cracks. She reaches for the boy. He twists and clamps both hands on the cowboy's shirt. Give him, she says. He's mine. He is warm, the man says. Let him keep it. You don't get to decide what he keeps. Neither do men. With papers, he says. They don't get to brand a life. She sits, because papers make her knees empty. They will come, she says. They always do. They will say he belongs to land, and law, and a name I don't wear. Then they will say it to me, he says. You think a body can change? A house, she says. Walls were built higher than you. Walls fall, he says. She slams her palm on the table. You don't know this house, she says. He doesn't blink. Then teach me it, he says. Anger rattles her bones because he makes it sound easy. You think you can carry it? She says. I can carry him, he says. She hates that. He is right. He shifts closer to the stove. The boy's breath slows and evens. You hear me? The cowboy says to the bundle. Breathe. The boy plants one hand on the man's chest. The widow watches that hand like a knife. He doesn't hold me like that, she says. Maybe he knows you hold up everything else, the man says. Tell me why you interfered, she says again. Not the simple version. He keeps his eyes on the boy. I lost one, he says. Cold took him. My choice helped it take yours, she says, startled by the tenderness that tries to rise. He nods. Mine. I won't learn that night again. She looks at the loose board by the stove and thinks of a sealed letter under it. She ladles thin stew into a cracked bowl and sets it near him. He shakes his head. Feed him first, he says. He is sleeping, she says. He will wake, he says. Eat, she says. He tastes and winces. Too much salt, he says. You cook like someone who counts pennies. I cook like someone punished for spending, she says. Then we spend breath instead, he says. No bullets, she adds. Words first. Words are cheap, he says. Not when men listen, she says. Men here listen only to themselves, he says. Then they hear a new voice, she says. Yours, he asks. Mine, she says. Shocked, she said it. He gives a tired smile. Good, he says. I'll keep them from talking over. You. She traces the deep cuts in the tabletop. They have a brand, she says. They will not say his name. They stamp the air and call it law. Then the brand breaks, he says. By fire or by hand. You talk like nothing bends you, she says. Everything bends me, he says. I stand back up. What do I call you? She asks. He shrugs. Call me what he calls me after tonight. Don't put that on him, she says. It is already on him, he answers. The boy whimpers, then goes slack, heavy with heat and trust. She tries again, gentler. Come to me, she whispers. He clings tighter to the stranger. Pain flares, and she lets it burn. He wants the warm body, the man says. He wants what stayed, she says. He does not argue. Then I stay, he says, until he wants you more. That could take forever, she says. Then that is how long, he says. She breathes with the room. They will ask why you sat here, she says. They will say your name wrong to make you small. Let them talk, he says. They already owe me worse. She hears another life in his tone. What did they take? She asks. A boy, he says. My fault and theirs. She nods once. Then you know the math, she says. We pay with what we have left. You don't know this house, she says again, but the teeth are gone. I know this table, he says. It is where people decide the next hour. Decide. She looks at the boy. She looks at the door. She looks at the loose board. I decide he stays, she says. With me. He nods. Then we defend that. Do you know what it means? She asks. My breath, then my bone, he says. Your voice, then your aim. The window turns to a mirror. 3 shapes sit in it, smaller than their fear. When they come, she says, I stand beside you, not behind. If I fall, he says, you keep standing. If I fall, she says, you take him and run. He nods. I won't let him see snow again. Night arrives and takes the yard. The candle throws nervous light. The boy sleeps deeper, breath slow and sure under the coat. The widow sits at her rough table and listens to silence. She keeps waiting. Candlelight flickers. The cowboy stays. The boy sleeps in his lap. The knock comes hard and flat. The widow stiffens at the table. The cowboy sets his hand on the boy's back to keep him still. The boy stirs but does not wake. The knock comes again. A voice follows. Open up. She breathes once, then twice. She lights another candle though the first still burns. She walks to the door and unlatches it. The sheriff fills the frame. Broad shoulders, badge dull in the dark. 2 men stand behind him, shadows carrying rifles. His eyes go past her and land on the cowboy. That man ain't family. The widow's voice is steady. He's nothing to me. The cowboy leans back in the chair, eyes on both of them. Then why am I here? The sheriff's lip curls. That's what I came to ask. The widow folds her arms. He heard a cry. He carried it inside. That's all. Men don't ride into yards at night just for crying. The sheriff says that the cowboy doesn't. The rifles behind the sheriff lift a fraction. The widow shakes her head quick. No fight in my house. The sheriff chuckles. House. You call this pile of wood a house. It's a debt marker, nothing more. The widow's hand trembles, but her voice cuts sharp. Then write my name on it, not theirs. You think ink beats blood, the sheriff says. Blood rots, she answers. Paper burns. The cowboy glances at her. The sheriff notices and smirks. You don't even trust each other, and you think you'll stand against families older than dirt. The cowboy says nothing. He sets the boy back in the chair and straightens. You got no right to him, the sheriff says. You got no right to knock, the cowboy says. The sheriff steps close until the door creaks. You'll learn, outsiders always do. The widow puts her palm flat against the frame. You done? Not near, he says. This land waits for me to come back. Then let it wait, she says. His eyes linger on the boy. The child coughs, and the cowboy shifts so the badge can't see. Snow's heavy tonight, the sheriff says. Shame if a roof breaks. The widow stiffens. Don't threaten my house. I don't threaten, he says. I remember. She forces her voice to quiet. Remind yourself to leave. He stares one more second, then turns. Boots grind the snow. The rifles follow. The cowboy doesn't breathe until they fade into dark. The door shuts. Silence holds. The widow presses, her back against the wood. Her chest heaves. She slides down until she sits on the floor, hands shaking, head against the door. The cowboy stays still, boy curled against him again. The only sound is her breathing, sharp and broken. As the sheriff's boots crunch away into night, the fire is low, just red bones in the hearth. The boy sleeps in the cowboy's lap, his breath soft against the man's chest. The widow cleans the table with a rag that only spreads the stains. Silence presses hard. The wind works the walls, the boards answering with groans. The cowboy shifts his boots near the hearth and hears a hollow knock. He frowns, presses again, and a loose board lifts. He reaches in. His hand comes out holding a folded letter sealed with black wax. The widow freezes. "Put that back." He studies it. The seal looks like it belongs to a house, not a man. The paper is yellowed, edges curled. He turns it in his hand. "Why hide this?" She drops the rag and crosses the room. "Give it." He doesn't move. "Who sent it?" Her hand shoots out, but he pulls back. "Don't." "I said give it," she says. Double quotes, "No. Not till you tell me what's in it." Her voice hardens. "You think you've earned that?" "I earned the truth when I carried your boy inside," he says. She shakes her head. "You don't understand." "Then make me," he says. "This paper's why you left him outside." Her chest heaves. "It's why they'll never leave us alone." He stares at her. "So it owns you. It owns this land. It owns every name carved in the graveyard. It owns me whether I breathe or not." He looks down at the seal. "You never opened it." "I don't need to. I know what it says." "Say it out loud." He presses. She shakes. "It says my son belongs to them. It says my bed belongs to them. It says my silence is bought, and if I break it, they break me." He holds the letter higher. "So you let Snow take him before they could." Her voice cracks. "Better Snow than what waits behind doors with locks." The boy coughs in his sleep. A small, harsh sound. The cowboy glances at him, then back at her. "You can't run from words on paper." "I can burn them," she says. "That don't erase the men behind them," he says. "It erases their proof," she answers. He steps closer. "You think fire scares a sheriff. He's got memory and guns." "I've got nothing," she says. "You've got him," the cowboy says. Her eyes glisten, and they know it. He lowers his voice. "Tell me who signed it." She hesitates. "His father's kin." The cowboy's face darkens. "The same name on the sheriff's badge." "Yes." He sighs through his teeth. "Then this isn't just paper. It's a chain, and chains burn," she whispers. He holds the letter over the fire. The widow snatches it back with sudden speed. She clutches it to her chest. "Not by your hand. By mine." "Why?" he asks. "Because, if you burn it, you fight them. If I burn it, I free him." He studies her face, sees steel and ruin side by side. Slowly, he lets go. She kneels by the hearth. The wax cracks in her fist. She does not open it. She pushes it into the coals. The paper blackens, curls, flakes. Ash floats up like gray snow. The boy coughs again, harsher this time. Both turn to look. His small chest rises and falls. He mutters in his sleep, then stills. The widow watches the last corner of the letter crumble into sparks. Her hands shake, but her eyes don't leave the flames. The cowboy crouches beside her. "Now what?" "Now they come," she says, and when they do, her voice is thin but steady. "We don't open the door." Ash drifts upward. The fire spits. The boy coughs once more in his sleep, the sound like a warning. Dawn cracks thin and gray. The widow pulls on her shawl and opens the door without a word. The cowboy rises from the chair where the boy still sleeps, wrapped in coat and blanket. He follows her outside. Snow crunches sharp under boots. The air bites and carries no sound but their steps. She walks with her chin high, though her eyes are rimmed with red. The cowboy says nothing, just keeps pace. They pass the barn, the broken fence, the path winding to the hill. At the top, iron gates lean against weather and time. She pushes them open, and they groan like old wood. Inside, stone rows wait in silence. Names carved deep, some fading, some fresh. The widow moves with purpose, until she kneels before a line of markers, each carrying the same last name. She rests her hand on the first. Husband's father, she says, built the mill, broke men's backs for it. Her hand moves to the next. His brothers took land they didn't need, left others hungry. She touches another. His cousin, sheriff's blood, war, a badge to remind us whose boots we stood under. The cowboy studies the names, same mark on every stone. She nods. They wanted the world to know this ground was theirs. He asks, "Where's your husband?" She points to a newer stone at the end. The snow already half buries it. There, the cowboy crouches, wipes frost from the letters. He's young, younger than he should have been, she says. Flat. What took him? Pride, she answers, and liquor, and a fight in his own blood house. The cowboy looks at her. And they still claim you. She laughs bitter. Every man here claimed me before I had a voice. He stares at her, steady. Then claim yourself now. She exhales, long and shaking. You think words change the stones. They change the living, he says. Her eyes narrow. You talk like a preacher again. I talk like a man who buried too many and let their names keep ruling. She touches her husband's stone. He swore to break free. He didn't. You can, the cowboy says. She looks at him sharp, and when they come, when the sheriff drags that boy from my arms, he answers low. Then we fight with what we have. Breath, bone, fire, if we need it. She studies him. You don't scare easy. I scare, he says. I just don't run. The wind kicks snow over the stones. The widow pulls her shawl tight. They buried me here the day I married. Didn't matter, I still breathed. Then, dig yourself out, he says. She rises, eyes on the line of names. If I try, they'll make sure the boy pays the price. He steps beside her. Not while I'm here. Her lips tremble. You can't promise that. I just did, he says for a moment. Her eyes soften, then harden again. Don't say son to him, she warns. He doesn't flinch. I already did. Snow swirls between them, carried by wind. The widow turns, walking back through the rows of stones. The cowboy follows. Behind them, the names sit heavy, carved, deep in silence. As they reach the gate, snow begins to fall harder, thick flakes blotting the path. The iron groans shut behind them. The graveyard fades white as they leave the hill. The day is still, sky heavy with pale light. The boy dozes near the stove when boots crunch the yard. The widow looks up sharp. The cowboy's hand already reaches the rifle leaning against the wall. She breathes hard, presses a finger to her lips, then points to the barn. They carry the boy wrapped in blankets, slip out the back, and cross the yard. The barn door closes behind them with a groan. The sheriff's voice cuts the air outside. Bring him out. The widow clutches her. Son. The cowboy stands in front of her, rifle angled low. The door creaks again, and the sheriff steps inside with two deputies close behind. Their coats are dusted with snow, rifles in hand. The sheriff smirks. Knew I'd find you hiding like rats. One deputy lifts his weapon. Move. The cowboy squares his shoulders. Step closer. See what happens. The deputy snorts, but doesn't advance. The widow's voice cracks. Stop it. Stop all of it. The sheriff's eyes land on the boy. That child belongs to a name older than this barn. He belongs to breath. The widow snaps. He belongs to me. You're a widow tied by vows and dirt, the sheriff says. Your husband's kin has claim. The cowboy shifts his rifle higher. Claim ends where my barrel points. The other deputy sneers. You'd shoot law. You ain't law, the cowboy says. You're hired hands for a name carved on stones. The widow shakes, clutching her boy tight. You talk about him like cattle. The sheriff shrugs. Same rules. Property follows blood. Her scream tears out raw. I am not property. My son is not property. The barn swallows her voice. Hay rustles, beams groan. The boy whimpers into her dress. The cowboy's voice drops. You hear her. This ends. Now, the sheriff's smile fades. You don't decide endings. Outsiders don't last here. I lasted long enough to hear his cry, the cowboy says. Long enough to carry him inside. You'll carry him to the grave if you stand in my way. The sheriff answers. The widow steps forward, trembling but fierce. Then you'll have to drag me over his body. The deputies shift, uneasy. The cowboy's finger tenses on the trigger. The sheriff's eyes narrow. One pull and this barn runs red. The widow raises her chin. Better red than branded. Silence thickens. Snow slides off the roof with a muffled crash. The boy whimpers louder. The deputy snarls again. Move. The cowboy doesn't blink. Step closer. See what happens. The widow screams, voice shattering. Enough. You men act like the world is yours to carve. I am not your dirt. He is not your stamp. Her chest heaves. The barn is still. Every breath sharp. The sheriff stares hard, jaw tight. The deputies glance at each other, waiting. A click breaks the silence. The sheriff cocks his revolver slow, the sound echoing against beams. All freeze. The boy whimpers. No one moves. The barn is frozen with silence. The sheriff's revolver stays cocked, his deputies holding rifles steady, the widow clutching her boy so tight his breath comes in short gasps. The cowboy hasn't lowered his rifle, his eyes locked on the men across from him. The standoff feels endless, the air thick, the horses restless outside. The sheriff finally lowers his weapon just a fraction. He nods toward one deputy. Show them. The man steps forward, a burlap sack slung over his shoulder. He drops it on the dirt. Metal clanks inside. He pulls out an iron brand, long-handled, the head shaped with a curling letter and sharp lines. Rust clings to it, but the mark is still clear. He lifts it so the widow can see. The sheriff's voice cuts low. This is the family's mark, burned into every steer, carved on every gate. Same blood flows in that boy. Same mark belongs to him. The widow's breath hitches, then hardens. She spits on the ground. He's mine, not theirs. The sheriff smirks. Doesn't matter what you spit. A brand don't lie. Once it touches hide, it binds. The cowboy steps closer, rifle still in hand. You talk about a child like cattle? The sheriff shrugs. Properties, property. The widow's scream cracks sharp. He's not your property. He's not theirs. He is not a mark on iron. The boy buries his face in her shoulder, whimpering. The cowboy's stare doesn't leave the iron. The sheriff holds out his palm, smug. All we need is fire. Then the boy carries the mark of the house. And you too can scream all you want, but he'll still belong. The deputies shift. Ready? The widow trembles with fury. You'll have to burn me first, she says. The sheriff smirks wider. If that's what it takes. The cowboy lowers his rifle, slow and deliberate. The deputies tense, thinking he's giving up. Instead, he crosses the barn and takes the brand from the deputy's hands. The iron is cold now, lifeless, but heavy. He studies the shape. The sheriff watches him, eyes narrowing. You hand that back. The cowboy doesn't move. He walks to the furnace box in the corner, left for branding cattle when the barn still held them. He pushes coals with the rifle butt, sparks jumping. He sets the brand inside, iron hissing against heat. The widow stares, not understanding. The sheriff's smirk returns. Finally, a man with sense. Get it hot. Let's finish this. The boy whimpers louder, clutching his mother's shawl. She shakes her head, voice cracking. Don't do it. Don't let them touch him. The cowboy's face stays hard. I won't. The iron glows red. He pulls it free with thick gloves, the heat shimmering. The sheriff steps closer, expecting the boy to be dragged forward. Instead, the cowboy lifts his own hand. He pulls off the glove, presses the brand straight into his palm. The sound is sick, flesh searing, smoke curling. The barn fills with the stench. The widow gasps, horrified. The boy hides his face deeper. The deputies flinch. The cowboy doesn't scream. His teeth grit, eyes locked on the sheriff. He holds it there until the hiss fades, then drops the iron to the dirt. His hand smokes, burned deep with the family mark. He lifts it for all to see. His voice cuts cold. Now it means nothing. The sheriff's smirk falls away. His eyes dart between the ruined hand and the boy clutched tight to his mother. The widow stares at the cowboy, trembling. Her son's arms wrap around her neck, squeezing. The deputies shuffle, uncertain. One mutters, "He's crazy." The cowboy steps forward, his burned hand held high. "This was your power, your chain. You wanted it on him. Now it's on me, and I don't belong to you." The sheriff's jaw clenches. "You can't erase blood." The cowboy glares. "Then blood lead fire before you touch him." The widow's voice shakes but rises. "You think names are stronger than will. You think graves speak louder than mothers. You're wrong." The boy peeks from her shoulder, eyes wide, silent tears on his cheeks. The sheriff tries to gather his sneer again, but it looks brittle now. One burn don't change the law. The cowboy lowers his hand, smoke still trailing. "It just did. He's mine before he's yours. She's his before she's yours. You got nothing left but fear." The barn holds the silence. Horses snort outside. Snow drips through a crack in the roof. The widow grips her son tighter, trembling. So hard the boy clutches back. The burned mark glows raw on the cowboy's palm, but his voice stays steady. The sheriff finally spits, motion sharp. "This ain't finished." He turns, deputies following. Their boots pound out of the barn, into the snow. The door swings shut, leaving the three alone. The widow's knees buckle. She sinks into the hay, the boy clinging. Her eyes stay locked on the cowboy's ruined hand. The brand lies in the dirt, still warm, its mark broken. The boy cries soft, confused. The widow pulls him close, whispering, "Mine, not theirs." The cowboy leans against a beam, chest heaving. Pain shakes through him, but he doesn't drop. Snow rattles the roof as the wind rises. The widow trembles, gripping her son tighter and tighter, as if her arms could keep every shadow away. The storm arrives before sundown, rolling in with a roar that rattles the shutters. Snow slams against the cabin like fists. The wind squeezes through cracks, whistling sharp. The widow bars the door, shoulders hunched, breath quick. The cowboy lays more wood on the fire, his burned hand wrapped in cloth. The boy curls under blankets, small eyes darting between them. The cabin groans as if it wants to split apart. The widow paces. "We'll be buried in here." The cowboy shakes his head. "We'll be alive in here." She stops, trembling. Alive for what? So they can drag him out when the storm clears. He watches her, steady, alive to keep him from that. Her voice cuts harsh. "You don't understand what they take." "Then tell me," he says. Her mouth works, then stills. She closes her eyes. "My husband didn't fall sick. He didn't drink himself to death. They killed him." The boy stirs at the word, burrows deeper into blankets. The cowboy leans forward. "Who?" "His kin," she says flat. "Said he shamed the family. Said he questioned the brand. They made it look like whiskey did it. But I saw the bruise on his neck. I saw the rope." Her voice cracks and hardens again. "And they told me I would stay quiet, or my son would carry the same rope." The fire spits, smoke curling. The cowboy nods once, then we fight louder. Her eyes flash. "You think one man and one woman can tear down families older than these hills? I think silence already let them grow this strong," he says. She turns away, fists tight. "I tried silence. I tried obedience. Nothing saved him." The cowboy unwraps his burned hand. holds it out raw and blistered. Then pain saves him. My boy died in cold like this. I made the wrong choice. I waited too long to act. I'll never wait again. The widow stares at the ruined flesh, trembling. You had a son. He nods once. He was small. He coughed like yours. One night the storm took the roof. I wrapped him late. Too late. I carried him through snow. Thought I could make town. By the time I saw firelight, he was stiff in my arms. The widow swallows, her eyes wet. And you hear my boy cry, and it pulls you back. It pulls me forward, he says. The boy shifts awake, eyes wide in the dim. The lantern flickers, shadows climbing. His voice comes small, breaking the air. Are you my PA now? The cowboy doesn't answer at once. The widow's breath catches, frozen between anger and fear. The boy stares, waiting. The cowboy leans close, voice low, steady. I'll be whatever keeps you alive. The boy blinks, tears catching in firelight. He nods and presses his face into the man's chest. The widow turns away, her hands gripping the wall. Her breath shudders loud enough to drown the storm for a moment. Outside, the wind howls, battering the cabin like fists. The lantern swings on its hook, light jumping. The cowboy looks to the window, and for a split second a shadow passes across. The snow outside broad shoulders, a hat brim sharp. The sheriff waits in the blizzard. The storm hasn't eased when the sheriff forces his way through the door. Snow blasts in around him before the deputies slam it shut. The widow jerks back, clutching her boy. The cowboy rises from the chair, burned hand at his side, rifle leaning within reach. The lantern swings, light jumping over tense faces. The sheriff shakes snow off his coat, his badge dull but heavy. Enough running, he says. We hold trial here. This is my house. The widow snaps. Not tonight, the sheriff says. He plants himself at the table. His deputies flank him, rifles across their knees. Tonight this is a court. The cowboy's jaw tightens. Courts don't start with guns drawn. They start with order, the sheriff says. And order starts with me. The widow steps forward, voice sharp. Order. You bring storms with your boots. You bring chains with your paper. That's not law. That's theft. The sheriff smirks. Speak plain, widow. You think the boy's yours. She holds her son tighter. He is mine, flesh of me, breath of me. The sheriff shakes his head. Bloodline says otherwise. Family claims override widows. Always have. The cowboy's voice cuts. Bloodline doesn't raise him, doesn't feed him, doesn't keep him warm. The sheriff points at him. You don't speak. You're no part of this. I am now, the cowboy says. The deputies shift. The widow sets her son on a chair, then plants both hands on the table, her knuckles pale. You drag him into this storm to prove what? That a name carved on stones owns every breath still living. That name built these lands, the sheriff says. That name buried them, she fires back. The sheriff chuckles low. Sharp tongue won't save you. It already has, she says. Kept me alive this long. The cowboy steps closer. You said trial. Then let's hear it. Speak your case. The sheriff nods. Fine. This woman dishonors her husband's blood by denying his kin, the boy. She hides him from rightful family. She brings strangers in to steal him away. Guilty. That's no trial, the cowboy says. It's the only one that matters. The sheriff says. The widow's voice hardens. You think he's a weapon? You think you can carry him like a flag in your wars? You won't. This boy won't be a weapon for dead men's pride. Her words hang in the air, hot against the storm outside. The boy stirs, eyes wide, listening. The sheriff slams his hand on the table. You forget your place. I buried my place. She spits. Alongside a husband your family strangled. The deputies glance at each other, uneasy. The cowboy's eyes sharpen. She speaks truth. You killed him. The sheriff's face hardens. Watch your mouth, or what? The cowboy says, you'll add me to the graves you already own. The sheriff leans back, sneer creeping again. Graves don't lie. Neither do burns, the cowboy says, lifting his ruined hand. Silence drops heavy. The deputies stare at the seared flesh, the brand twisted and raw. The widow whispers, he marked himself so you couldn't mark my son. The sheriff's voice shakes but steadies. Madness. Don't change what's written. The cowboy steps closer to the table. It changes everything. Your brand doesn't bind him anymore. The sheriff's face darkens. You think one fool's stunt makes law vanish. At dawn, the boy leaves here. Kin will take him. That's my order. The widow's voice shakes with rage. Over my body, the sheriff stands, if need be. Snow bangs against the shutters, wind howling. Like a warning, the boy cries out, small and scared. The widow pulls him close, rocking him, eyes locked on the sheriff with fire. The deputies rise, rifles in hand. The cowboy grips his weapon but doesn't raise it yet. The sheriff moves to the door, coat snapping in the draft. He looks back once. At dawn, he's ours. His boots crunch against the floorboards as he leaves. The deputies follow. The door slams, wind rattling the latch. The widow stands frozen, boy clutched tight. The cowboy exhales hard, shoulders heavy, dot outside boots, crunch away into the storm. Inside, the cabin holds its breath. The storm weakens by morning, leaving a heavy stillness behind. Snowdrifts lean against the cabin walls. The widow moves quietly, not looking at the boy sleeping by the fire. She pulls on her shawl, opens the back door, and steps into the brittle air. The cowboy follows, saying nothing. They walk through white silence until she stops at a patch of ground, fenced by leaning boards. In the middle stands an old stone well, its stones dark with moss, its rope frayed and stiff with ice. The widow grips the rim with both hands, her breath sharp in the cold. The cowboy waits, eyes on her. She speaks without looking up. I never told anyone, not the sheriff, not the graveyard, not even him. The cowboy's voice is steady. Told them what? She stares into the black mouth of the well. What happened here? What I let happen? The cowboy steps closer. Careful. Say it. Her voice shakes, but keeps going. My first child, a girl. She had his eyes. She cried at night, loud, restless. My husband, he hated the sound. Said it made him weak. She shuts her eyes. One night he took her out here, rope tied to a stone. Said he was teaching silence. I followed. I saw him drop her in. The cowboy's face hardens. His breath comes out white and slow. You saw. Her voice breaks. I saw her vanish in black water. I heard the splash. Then nothing. He walked back inside like it was done. He said if I spoke, I'd follow her. She grips the stones until her knuckles pale. That's why I left this one in the snow. Better the cold than the water. The cowboy's jaw tightens. He stares into the well, as if the dark might still hold echoes. He says nothing for a long time. When he does speak, it's low. You carried that alone. She nods once. Every day since he takes another step closer. Why, tell me now, because you need to know what they'll do, what they already did. This isn't about law, it's curse. They think silence makes them gods. He shakes his head. It makes them cowards. Her voice sharpens. No, it makes them owners. Of graves, of children, of me. He turns to her, burned hand hidden under his coat. Not anymore, you said. It's yourself. Better cold than water. Better fight than silence. Her eyes shine but don't spill. You think fight will fill this well? No, he says. But it'll stop them from filling it again. She stares into the dark, trembling. I still hear her. Some nights, when the wind blows right, I hear her crying from down there. The cowboy lays his hand on the stones, rough against rough. You hear your own grief, but I hear you still standing. That's louder. She shakes her head. You don't understand. They didn't just kill her. They killed me that night. Everything since has been shadow. His voice is hard now. Then step out of shadow. You're still here. He's still here. The widow breathes sharp, looking back toward the cabin. A faint sound drifts on the cold air, her boy's laughter, muffled through the walls, light and sudden. The sound cuts through the silence, carrying both pain and promise. Night falls sharp, and with it comes the glow of torches moving across the snow. The widow sees them first, through the window. Her breath catches. The boy stirs by the fire, sensing fear before words. The cowboy reaches for his rifle. The sound of boots grows louder, closer, until the door rattles from fists. The sheriff's voice cuts through the wood. Bring him out, or we take him in flames. The widow clutches her son. The cowboy pulls her toward the barn. We move now. They rush into the cold, snow biting at their feet, and slip inside the barn. The horses stamp nervously, sensing danger. The boy clings to his mother's dress, whimpering. The cowboy raises his rifle, steady. The door slams open. The sheriff steps in with 2 deputies, torches spitting fire. His badge catches the light, eyes cold. He lifts the torch high. Bloodline decides. The cowboy's voice cuts like iron. Not tonight. The sheriff gestures. One deputy hurls a torch into the hay. Flames crawl fast, licking the beams. The barn breathes fire, shadows twisting across walls. Horses scream. Smoke pours up, thick and choking. The widow grabs a rifle from the rack, her hands shaking. The sheriff laughs. You won't pull that trigger. Her eyes blaze. She lifts it, sights set. Watch me. She fires. The shot cracks loud, echoing through the storm outside. A deputy falls, clutching his chest, blood dark against firelight. Chaos erupts. The other deputy fires wild, splintering wood. Horses rear and crash against stalls. Sparks shower down. The boy screams, hands over his ears. The sheriff snarls, rushing forward. The cowboy meets him, rifle butt slamming into the badge. They grapple, fists and firelight. The brand still hangs on the wall, glowing in the heat. The cowboy shoves him back, eyes burning through smoke. The widow drags her son close, covering him with her shawl. Fire roars overhead, beams cracking. Heat blistering. She screams, "We have to go." The sheriff rises again, revolver drawn. He belongs to us. The cowboy lifts his rifle, aiming steady. He belongs to breath. Gunfire explodes. The sheriff stumbles back, rage twisting into fear. Flames chase his boots, climbing fast. The barn shakes, roof timbers ready to fall. Smoke blinds. The boy sobs into his mother's arms, voice breaking. "Mama, Mama." The widow holds him close, her body shielding his small frame. "Hush, I've got you. I've got you." The cowboy rips off his coat, throws it over the boy, wrapping him tight. The fire closes in, a wall of red and black. Sparks burn his skin, but he doesn't slow. The widow meets his eyes once, raw and desperate. She nods, then pushes the boy into his arms. "Run." The roof groans, fire showers down. The cowboy pulls the child close, coat around him like armor, and charges through smoke and flame. The boy's scream pierces the inferno as they break into the night, fire exploding. Behind them, the barn is gone by morning. Only black ribs of wood stand against the sky. Snow falls over the ruin, soft and endless, smothering the smoke. The cabin is nothing but ash and stone. The air smells of iron and pine sap and death. The sheriff lies among the wreck, eyes open, face half burned. His badge is cracked, one edge melted to his chest. The deputies are scattered in the snow, rifles beside them, their boots frozen where they fell. The widow stumbles across the yard, clutching her side. Blood runs between her fingers, dark against white. The boy is wrapped in the cowboy's coat, pressed tight to his chest, his face hidden. The cowboy lowers him to the ground for a moment and catches the widow before she falls. Her lips are pale, her eyes fierce even as they dim. She tries to push him off, but her strength is gone. Don't pity me. I don't, the cowboy says. His voice is hoarse from smoke. I see you standing. She shakes her head. I'm not standing. I'm sinking. He lowers her into the snow. Careful. The boy crawls from the coat, pulling at her arm. Mama. Her hand trembles as she touches his cheek. There you are, my boy. He clings to her, sobbing. The cowboy looks away, jaw tight. The widow's voice is thin but steady. Listen to me. He's yours now. The cowboy shakes his head. He's yours. Her eyes burn. Not for long. Don't let him remember me in chains. Don't let them write me as weak. The boy cries louder. Mama, don't go. She pulls him close with her last strength, whispering into his hair. Then she looks at the cowboy. Promise me. The cowboy leans in. He'll remember your fight. Her breath rattles. Her body shudders once, then stills. Snow drifts over her face as if the world itself is trying to cover the wound. The boy screams into her dress. The cowboy kneels beside him, one hand on his back, saying nothing. Time stretches until the storm's howl becomes silence. Finally, the cowboy pulls the boy into his arms. The child struggles, beating tiny fists against his chest, but then collapses into sobs, spent. The cowboy holds him tighter, wraps him again in the coat. He looks down at the widow one last time. His voice is low, almost breaking. Rest, I'll carry him. He stands. The snow is deep, endless, covering every track. The boy clings to his neck, face buried, tears soaking into his shirt. The cowboy takes the first step forward, boots sinking heavy behind him. The ruins fade under falling snow. Ahead, only white and silence stretch forever. The boy shifts, whispering small. Pa. The cowboy's throat tightens. He lowers his face close, voice steady, despite the weight. Son. He keeps walking, the child in his arms, into the endless silence of snow. He keeps walking through white that swallows tracks. The boy's breath warms his neck. The coat holds both of them, heavy with smoke and promise. He does not look back. He carries the boy, and the thin weight of a name that needs deciding. Cold, the boy whispers, I know. Where we going? Where the wind lets us. Does it ever? Sometimes. The fence posts lean like black ribs. He thinks of the widow's last look, fierce even as it faded. He sets his jaw. Ground is only ground. A narrow road appears, half buried. He follows it, boots sinking. The boy shifts, and he tightens his hold. You hungry? He asks. A little. We'll find broth. Where? Where someone keeps mercy. Are we strangers? For now, the road bends to a stand of trees. A small chapel squats under them, board silvered, door crooked. Smoke rises from a thin pipe. He knocks. The door opens a hand's width. An old woman peers out, eyes like nails. We're closed, she says. For prayer, for mercy. We have little left. We have less, he says. Her gaze drops to the boy, to ash on his collar. She opens the door wider. Quick then. They step inside. A stove ticks. Benches. A quilt. The boy's teeth chatter. Warm him, she says. He opens the coat. Small hands stretch to heat. She sets a tin cup down. Broth. Not much meat. The boy drinks. His breath steadies. The woman studies the man's wrapped hand and the char at its edge. There was fire, she says. Yes. And men who think they're the only men. Yes. And a woman who stood. He nods. Words would only break. She is gone, the woman says. He nods again. You'll need paper, she adds. No paper? You want to keep him. Paper stops mouths. Paper starts bullets. Sometimes it steadies hands. She leans closer. What does he call? You. The boy opens his eyes. He told me I can call him what keeps me alive. The woman's mouth lifts. Good. He looks at the floorboards. The burn undercloth throbs. A hot coin. Town clerk sits 3 miles east, she says. Decent when fed. Hates the big house, but loves ink. If you arrive before cousin's ride, he might write your name over theirs. The sheriff is dead, the man says. Then a cousin is already practicing his smile. The boy touches his wrist. Are we safe? For now, she says, while my stove burns. Do we have a last name? The boy asks. Not yet, the man says. Can we get one? Yes. Will it be yours? The room holds its breath. He hears the wind scratch the door. He remembers the widow's words. Don't let him remember me in chains. It will be ours, he says. The woman slides the quilt toward him. Wrap both of you. Bring it back when you bring paper that says what you just said. He settles the quilt around them. The boy's head rests under his chin like it belongs. There. Tell me her name, the woman says. He speaks it. The word drifts like smoke. I'll say it when I pray, she says. And I won't let the big house write over it. Thank you. Don't thank me. Walk while the storm hides your tracks. He stands. The boy clings. She hobbles to a trunk and pulls a small tin. Inside sit a worn ribbon, a silver button, a paper scrap with faded ink. She sets the button and scrap in his burned hand. What is this? Proof, you're the kind who carries. The clerk likes to see something old when he writes something new. He opens the scrap. A hymn line. We are named by what we keep alive. He tucks it away. The boy pockets the button. They step back into white. The door closes soft behind like a hand leaving a shoulder. Will they come back? The boy asks as they move. They'll try. What do we do? Keep walking. Until when? Until the ink is dry. That's a lot. It is. The land dips to a creek choked with ice. He jumps the narrowest point. The boy squeals, then laughs on landing. You laughed, the man says. I forgot. Then it came back. Keep it. Fields of black stalks lean under snow. A dog barks where they can't see. The road widens. A leaning sign shows enough letters to point east. The boy traces them with a finger. A low roof. A plume of smoke. A man in a wool cap stands in a doorway. By the grace of empty roads, he says. Look at luck walking in. Not much luck, the man says. Then money, the clerk says. Same weight. He eyes the boy. You cold? The boy nods. Come warm your fingers while your PA signs what he needs. The word lands and fits. What do I sign? The man asks. The clerk lifts the ledger. Tell me a story I can write and not get shot for. There was a woman, the man says. She died last night. She wanted her boy free. Free of what? Chains nobody sees. Names that walk into houses. I know those names, the clerk says. The man sets the silver button on the counter, the hymn scrap beside it. The clerk studies both and nods as if they're worth. Coin. You a churchman? The clerk asks. I'm a road and a coat, the man says. Some days I'm only breath. Breath is enough. The clerk dips his pen. What name? The boy looks up. He said ours. That's a promise, the clerk says. I need letters. The man looks at the boy. Say it. I want his, the boy whispers. What is his? The clerk asks. The old name rises and fades like a bird changing trees. The man picks the word he spoke when he wrapped the child in smoke and night. Call him son, he says. The clerk laughs once. That won't pass doors. Write two, the boy says. One for doors, one for hearts. The clerk stops laughing and writes, careful and slow. He sands the page, blows, slides it over. The man signs with a hand that shakes. The burn throbs but does not rule. The clerk stamps. He ties a ribbon and hands the paper to the boy. The child holds it like a bird that trusts his fingers. "What does it say?" the boy asks. "It says what you already knew," the clerk answers. "You belong where your breath stays safe." The boy turns. "Pa." The man lowers his face. Voice steady. "Son." They step back into day. Snow falls lighter, a sift, not a shroud. The road runs white and simple. He tucks the paper inside the coat above the boy's heart, pulls the quilt tight, and starts south toward places without old fences. Behind them the clerk hums the hymn line. Ahead the land waits without a badge to its name. He walks, the boy rests. The coat holds. The quiet keeps. And the world, for one long breath, believes them. The wind eases, and the sky opens a little. They breathe together and keep moving.